Welcome in, everybody, to Corner Booth Sports. My name's John Zaglul of Sports Talk Chicago and WCKG. I'm here with my friend Daniel Karp. We both go to the University of Chicago, and we decided why not come together and talk about sports. We call it Corner Booth, actually, because, Daniel, you can attest to this, very long dinner conversations between us. We get dinner, once, twice a week, and it lasts, at least 2 hours when we sit down.
Sometimes longer, for better or for worse.
Once we get going, we just never stop. And that's what we're going to do on this show. Once a week, twice a week, talk about everything going on in sports. We'll talk about your favorite teams, MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, everything will be brought to this show. And it's great to be here with you virtually, Daniel. It's nice to talk with you.
Yeah, it would be better to be sitting at the same table, but this will have to do for now.
Well, let's jump right in. We have some MLB talk to start. The season's going to be opening up next week, July 23rd and 24th. And right now, we're going to go through and talk about each division, make a playoff bracket, see who we think is going to make it, and also make some early award predictions. So, Daniel, if you'd like to start, you can provide your playoff bracket and who you think's going to advance here in the postseason for the MLB.
Yeah, perfect. So let's get into it. From the NL West, I think that's the easiest division to start off with. I'm picking the Dodgers. I mean, it's hard to see a team that's won, 7 straight divisions lose again. I mean, it's a 60-game stretch, but you got to imagine they're going to find a way to do it again. The Giants got even worse. They've got no Posey, got no Bumgarner. I mean, the Padres aren't getting any better. Maybe Tatis with a full 60-game stretch will be healthy, hopefully. But I think it's got to be the Dodgers there. And then moving on to the Central, I've got the Reds. A little bit of a hot take, but you got 60 games.
Okay.
You got Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray on the mound. I think that they could put together a nice stretch. And as we'll get into my MVP pick, I think that Joey Votto could have a very nice season. Being on base is going to be very important. And, so I have the Reds there. I think the Brewers, their pitching staff is just not strong enough to compete with the Reds. I think that the Cubs – I think they're a ways away from their 2016 win. And I'm going with the Reds in the Central. And then moving on to the NL East. Now, I had a very tough time with this one, but I'm going with the Atlanta Braves. The only reason I say I had a tough time, even though the Braves seem like a potentially obvious pick, is because the Mets have such a good starting rotation. So I don't think the Mets are there yet. The Nationals, they got worse. So I'm just going to be going with the Braves over there. And then for my 2 wildcard teams, I'm going to be picking the Mets. DeGrom, I think, is going to win his 3rd Cy Young, as we'll get into. And I think that the Brewers are also going to get back to the promised land. And I'm not necessarily sure that it's going to be the pitching that gets them there, as I just said. I think that Lorenzo Cain, Christian Yelich are going to have a solid year, and they're going to hit their way. They're going to take advantage of playing against the bad teams on the AL side, like the White Sox, like the Tigers and the Royals. And so they're going to squeak in as well. And if you want to go with your NL picks, John.
Sure, I'll do that. In the West, I totally agree. Has to be the Dodgers, right? They acquired Mookie Betts, too, and I know David Price opted out, but Mookie Betts will be playing. Similar roster. If they don't win the division, that's going to be a huge disappointment, also a waste, with Mookie only being there for now 60 games or whatever it is at this point. In the Central,
Verdugo, too.
They do have Verdugo. Verdugo is actually a very good prospect. I thought he did well last year in his rookie season. So, yeah, should be expecting much more from him. In the Central, I did not like your take on the Cubs, first of all. Let's get that out in the open. Now, even though I could be a biased source of information, I have said that the Cubs are nearing their rebuild. I don't think this year is that year. I think they are going to make a run. I don't know about winning the division. I would put them in my wild card conversation. But they still have enough pitching. They still have Bryant, Rizzo, and that tandem. I feel like it's not going to be just one and done for the Cubs. They will make it this year. Will they advance? Probably not. So my pick for the Central Division to actually win it is going to be the Cincinnati Reds as well. They have enough pitching. That's the biggest thing with them. Bauer and, as you said, Castillo. Great. Those are 3 great pitchers to have at the top of your rotation. I like the Reds, but I like the Cubs as a wild card. I'm never going to discount them. Then in the East, I don't agree with the Braves, and here's why. Freddie Freeman is sick. He has COVID-19. He's probably opting out of the season. He's a huge bat. Nick Markakis is also opting out. Say what you want about him. The guy has 2,400 hits. So putting those two out of the picture does scare me a bit. I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies to win that division. And here's why, Shane. And here's why. Bryce Harper is still on that team. They have a decent rotation. Lots of young guys are on the up and up. Joe Girardi is their new manager. I feel like this year in a 60-game schedule that they could find a way to pull it out. And as for my other wild card team, this is a tough one. I will go with the Mets. I will. Their rotation is too hard to pass up. It's just you can't discount what they have in that rotation. And it's crazy to think that we're not going to include the Nationals in this, but I feel like last year was a bit of a lightning in the bottle effect. I don't think they're going to repeat that this year. So, yeah, we're kind of in agreement, but
I must say, you totally forgot. You brought up Freddie Freeman not playing and Nick Markakis not playing, but how can you forget about the possible 40-40 man, Ronald Acuna? He's not Mike Trout, but he's probably the second best player in the game, and I think that you're just discounting his talents a little bit.
Yeah, I am, and that's purposefully because I think he's a bit overrated, in my opinion. I think he is a bit overrated. You know what? I understand his rookie year was great. Last year he did regress a bit. His batting average did go down, and people could say that batting average doesn't matter. I know we've talked about this at length, but to me it matters still a significant amount, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we delve into more episodes of this in the old school versus new school. But the point being, I'm not 100% sold on Acuna yet. This shortened season, we don't know how anybody's really going to do. All these predictions that we're making, as great as they are and as fun as it is to talk about, someone who we couldn't even imagine could come up. I mean, I've heard people say that the Marlins could win the division. Why not? It's 60 games.
I'm not going to go that far. Anything can happen. Besides the Marlins and Orioles making the playoff, those teams are decades away. They remind me of the Knicks with just how bad they are and how they seem to never actually improve that much. But you want to give your AL East picks now?
Sure, why not? I'll go to the AL and see who we got there. In the AL East, I'm going to go with the Rays for the AL East. And again, here's why. Lots of young talent. These are guys who are going to be able to just turn around next day, keep moving quick at a quick pace and move forward. They have a lot of good pitching. They have a lot of young talent. You know, Austin Meadows, Glass now is going to be on the mound healthy. I feel like they're going to pull that off. I'd put the Yankees in my wild card. As for the Central, yes, the Chicago White Sox are winning the Central Division. Whether anybody wants to say anything, whatever it might be, the White Sox are the winners of that division. They have enough young talent to get them through 60 games. And they have a lot of guys who are supposed to be bouncing back this year. Even without Kopech, he said he's opting out, fine. They have so much pitching. Their rotation is amazing. They have 6 or 7 guys in only 5 spots. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a 6-man rotation, even, to spread out innings throughout the season and then save people for the postseason. So I like the White Sox in the Central. And in the West, I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Angels. Mike Trout, now we don't know if he's opting out yet, but I would hope he stays. Anthony Rendon, their pitching is a bit off, but again, in the 60-game season, you don't need, 3 guys to pitch 200 innings. You don't need that depth in your rotation. And Joe Maddon is Joe Maddon. I feel like to this day, he was dealt a bad card leaving Chicago. The Cubs totally screwed him. And I think now it's time for revenge. It's time for vengeance for Joe Maddon. He's going to prove to everybody that it wasn't his fault. It was the Cubs' fault. So Joe Maddon will win the AL West with the Los Angeles Angels. I said the Yankees as one of my wild cards, and the other one's going to be the Minnesota Twins. I think the Twins can replicate to an extent what they did last year. They may not hit 250 home runs as a team, or the equivalent in this shortened season, but they will win enough games to get to that wild card spot, in my opinion. What about you?
We have a lot of similarities and a few disagreements. I actually, as much as it pains me to say it, I have the Rays winning the division too. They've got Glasnow, like you mentioned. They've got Snell. They've got Maddon. And their young hitters are just getting better and better. Meadows is going to be there playing his second season there. And I just think that they've got too much talent to lose these series against these teams. They're going to play the Yankees. They're going to have Snell, Morton, Glass now. And are you really going to doubt that they're going to win 2 of those games? I find it hard to believe. So I have the Rays winning the division. In the Central, I have the Twins. I can't discredit the Bomba squad. Last year, they hit the most home runs in the history of the league. And they added Josh Donaldson. They're going to do it again.
That was an anomaly.
It might have been an anomaly, but they're going to win it again. And in the West, I know you didn't have the Astros either. I have the Texas Rangers. And here's why. It's a little bit of a sleeper pick, but maybe it's not as much of a sleeper pick as people might believe. Lance Lynn, Mike Minor, maybe it was an aberration last year, but they were phenomenal. You add in Corey Kluber, who hopefully is healthy. You bring along guys like Nomar Mazara, Odor, Gallo. They can hit home runs. And if they can strike lightning in a bottle, they can possibly do something. I think the Angels' pitching is so bad that the Rangers will actually capitalize on those games against them. I think that the Astros, perhaps without fans in the seats, are going to be able to play better and not have to worry about the distractions as much. But I think that they lost Cole. Maybe they lost some of their mojo alongside that. I'm not going to be taking them to win the division. In my 2 wild cards, I think you have to go with the Yankees. The Yankees right now in Vegas are the odds-on favorite to win everything. I'm not saying they're going to, but their team is just too stacked. They're getting DJ LeMahieu back this week, so hopefully he's ready to go in a week. They lost Aroldis Chapman this week, which is pretty sad to COVID. Hopefully we get him back. And then for my second wild card, I'm going to be going with the Oakland A's.
Okay.
I think that they have really solid hitters with Olsen and Chapman, and Manaea hopefully is healthy this year. I think that it could all come together for them, and they can find their way back into the postseason.
You know, Corey Kluber going to the Rangers reminds me of like Joe Montana going to the Chiefs. I don't think you're going to see Cy Young Award winning Corey Kluber on the Rangers. I have a lot of doubts about him replicating what he did down in Texas. But as you said, I mean, if he does do what he did, and you do have Minor who, you know, can shake off his injury troubles, and Lance Lynn, who's a proven innings eater, I will give him that. Yeah, it's possible. I could see it. But I just think that you're going to get generic brand Corey Kluber down in Texas, and the way I see it. But
well, he probably
prove me wrong.
But you also don't have to rely on him as much. He's only going to be serving as the third starter for that team. And on top of that, he's not going to have to stretch himself out over 180 innings, 200 innings this year. He's only got to pitch maybe 100, maybe 110 if it really gets that far. So I think that you don't have to rely on him too much.
Well, I guess once we have these teams now that we've picked, who's going to end up winning it all? I mean, it's a really tough decision. And again, all of this is so subject to change. With this short season, we really don't know. And yeah, I get it. The Marlins aren't going to be the team to win the NL East, for example. But there are a lot of teams who we probably haven't even talked about who could end up making the playoffs and shock everybody. So take all these with a grain of salt to those who are watching. I'm going to have to go with a World Series matchup featuring the Dodgers from the NL, no doubt. And I would have to say Dodgers and Rays, I think, is a formidable matchup. The Dodgers just have too much talent. It pisses me off, but they have too much talent. Every year they have too much talent. And if you don't go to the World Series with Cody Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Justin Turner, Verdugo, Gavin Lux, Clayton Kershaw, I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. This is their year to win.
I might interject. And by the way, I agree with you. Verdugo's on the Sox now. They traded him for Betts.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know about that. Yes, he was a part of that trade with David Price and Betts. And it's unfortunate that Price isn't playing, by the way. He could have really helped them, I think, or at least done something near the back end of that rotation. But yeah, it's gonna be Dodgers, Rays. Dodgers win that series in 5. That's my prediction. The Rays are good. I think, again, with this short season, they could shock a lot of people. But I don't see them winning against the Dodgers in the World Series. The Dodgers, they just have too much talent. Simple as that.
I have to agree with you. I have the Dodgers and the Rays as well. I have the Dodgers winning in 7. I just think that their pitching is going to do them well enough that they're going to be able to beat the trio of Snell, Glasnow, and Maddon. I think that the Rays are going to play well in the postseason as a result of the fact that they're not playing in front of so many fans, because they're used to not playing in front of fans. And teams like the Yankees thrive on that. You go to Yankee Stadium and it's booming. Everyone's so loud. Now you're going to be sending them to play with no fans. They're going to be so shocked. They're not going to be able to handle the no pressure. It's going to be more pressure. And so the Rays are going to run the table. They're going to make it to the World Series. They are going to lose to the Dodgers. I will say this about David Price. It's a blessing in disguise that he's not playing for the Dodgers. He could not pitch against any good teams last year. He got lit up by the Yankees time and again. His two-seamer's dying. His changeup is dying. He's getting paid $90 million. Maybe they get out of paying him this year. I think it's a blessing in disguise for the Dodgers.
I agree, but I mean, you still can't deny that he is an arm, and he would be useful in the 4 or 5 spot or the 3 spot even. But as we've talked about before, ever since Price got paid by the Red Sox, he has been an utter disappointment. I am extremely just shocked. This was a guy who was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Now he'll be lucky if he gets to 200 wins. What a shame. What a shame.
Yeah, it's all about longevity, and a lot of these players, once they get that contract, they're not the same.
Yep. I know.
Let's move on to the awards. So you've got your Dodgers and the Rays. How are your awards shaping up?
Yeah, I might get some flack for this, but I really don't care. In the NL, the Cy Young Award winner is going to be Scherzer, and not going to be DeGrom. I don't care for DeGrom. I've never been a fan of his. I think he's extremely overrated. And then as for the MVP in the NL, I'm going to go with Christian Yelich as my number 1 pick, but I do have a sleeper pick that I want to throw out there. Josh Bell of the Pirates. Bell last year had, I would argue, a breakout campaign. Did really well, and he's been moving up and up. You know, he had a power outage 2 years ago, and the Pirates worked with him on his swing, and he got that power back. I think in a 60-game season here, again, anything is possible, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bell could at least get up there, maybe make a run, top 3, top 5, finish runner-up, something along those lines. As for the American League, Justin Verlander is my pick. He'll repeat. And Gerrit Cole is an interesting case. I feel like, and I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like the money will corrupt him, similar to what David Price has gone through. I'm not 100% sold on Gerrit Cole pitching in New York as well in that market. Very different than Houston. You know, I would argue Houston is in the middle of nowhere compared to New York. There's going to be so much media and so much attention around Cole. I don't know if he'll handle it. Remember, before he pitched in Pittsburgh, too, who cares? You know, now we're talking about the big-time lights. We're talking about a big-time contract. I don't expect him to just go in and pitch how he did last year or in years past. As for the AL MVP, I will pick Mike Trout, assuming he plays. But right behind him, watch out for Matt Chapman. Last year, an 8.5 WAR, and, you know, I'm not even into WAR, but I use that just as a nice estimator. 8.5 WAR, I would like to see a higher batting average out of him, but knowing how the MLB is going, they'll probably pick some guy hitting 250 as the MVP these days, so that'll work for Chapman's case. And he's a great fielder. Platinum Glove winner, Gold Glove winner. I would argue the most valuable player in the A's, no doubt. And I feel like this year will be his year to possibly win the award, and if not, finish in the top 5.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Let's start off with all of my issues with everything that you said. DeGrom will win the Cy Young for the 3rd time. This will cement his place in the Hall of Fame. I mean, to discredit and say he's been overrated over the past 2 seasons is unbelievable. He had a 1.7 ERA in 2018, 2.4 last year, and he struck out over 250 both years. To say that he's overrated is blasphemous.
Well, you know what? Max Scherzer is I'd rather have Max Scherzer any day of the week than Jacob deGrom. I will argue that. No,
I'm not going to disagree. Comparison. I don't disagree. I would rather have Max Scherzer. But who's going to win the Cy Young? It will be Jacob deGrom this year. Moving on to my MVP. As a result of me taking the Reds, they've got to have someone that's going to lead them there. It's going to be Joey Votto. He will be the MVP. He almost won in 2017. I think he finished maybe one vote behind Stanton. Last year was a bit of a down year for him, but I think that in a shortened season, he's going to get on base a lot. Maybe he'll have a little bit of a power surge. Hopefully he'll get a little bit of help from Eugenio Suarez in there, a little protection. And I think he's going to put together a decent campaign. And I think that with his team making the playoffs, they're going to give a lot of credit towards him. And I think he's going to be my sleeper pick from the NL. As for the AL, Gerrit Cole will win the AL Cy Young. He has done everything right under the bright lights so far. He has had good responses. He's been pitching well in inter-squad games. He's been unbelievable if you see any of his highlights on Twitter. And he has pitched under the limelight before. Last year in the postseason, he thrived. And that's part of the reason he got a record-breaking contract this year. He pitched against the Rays in Game 5, so much pressure on the Astros, and he came to play. He was unbelievable, throwing 100 on the corners. I see Gerrit Cole having a Cy Young year. Verlander will be up there, as he always is, but it's going to be Gerrit Cole this year. As for the MVP, if the Red Sox can play well, it's going to be as a result of Rafael Devers having another phenomenal year. Last year, he had 5 WAR, not the highest, but he had 30 homers. He had 50 doubles, batted .311. If you can clean up his fielding, maybe add a little bit more to the power game, I think you're going to be hard-pressed to tell me that he's going to have a bad season. I think that it's going to be one of the best seasons, the best season in the AL for that matter. So I have Rafael Devers. I like your pick with Matt Chapman. He obviously is one of the best, if not the best fielders in the game right now. But his batting average is too low for me. So I think I'm going to pass on him. Obviously, the answer that most people would give is Trout, but I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and go with my sleeper in Devers. So looking forward to him winning and me referring back to this video.
You know, it's funny, your pick for NL MVP. Did you watch Joey Votto play last year?
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
The guy is check swinging at the plate and trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do, sitting there practicing check swinging outside of the batter's box. Those images will never leave my head. I feel like the year in which he challenged Stanton and didn't win, and rightfully so, was the last year of his prime. He has been on a downturn since then. But, I mean, who knows? Again, 60-game season, short season, who knows? But the point is, I don't see that happening. And as for Gerrit Cole, okay, the money will corrupt him. Last
I'm not saying it won't, but we're just talking about the first year, this year. We're not talking about 10 years down the line. We're talking about right now. Is the money going to corrupt him this season?
I guess not. I think the contract in general, though, is ridiculous. And you could even agree with this. The CC Sabathia contract late, maybe the last, I would argue, 3 or 4 years, was definitely a ripoff.
As are most contracts of that length and that much money. But the goal when you give those contracts out is to win. And you win the World Series in 2009 for the Yankees, and that contract is well worth it. Did he have 3 years where he threw $60 million down the drain? Sure. But the Red Sox would probably argue that having David Price was worth it because they won. And a lot of teams would say the same thing when they win with overpaying players out of their prime.
And I like the Devers pick, by the way. I think that's a guy who is extremely overlooked. He doesn't get enough attention.
He reminds me a lot of Alex Bregman in the sense that they hit like 30 bombs. Bregman last year went off with home runs, but I think that was a lot of players did. But they always put up 50 doubles. They've got a high batting average. And I think that he's going to be really good moving forward. He already has been.
The number one reason why people don't like Devers is because his on-base percentage isn't high enough. So thanks to the sabermetric people watching, because it's your fault that no one cares about Rafael Devers. I know he hits over 300. I followed Rafael Devers since he debuted. The problem is his on-base percentage is 330, 340, and he hits 300, so nobody cares about him. His OPS isn't high enough. His OPS plus isn't high enough. And as a result, his WAR is not high enough either. You know what? He is a talented baseball player. And unfortunately, I don't think he'll ever get the recognition he deserves until his on-base percentage is at 400. That's where I stand with that. But I like that pick, and I'm glad that somebody's giving him some respect because everybody else just throws him off to the side. Oh, yeah, he's all right, but on base not high enough, so he blows. That's not the case with Rafael Devers. He is a talented baseball player who deserves much more attention.
And meanwhile, I'm going to get totally destroyed in all the comments. I'm a Yankees fan taking the Rays over the Yankees and picking Rafael Devers as the MVP. I'm taking no one from my team. It's not going to go well for me. I'm going to have to start staying inside. All right, with all the uncertainties of the shortened season, one of the things I'm noticing most when I'm watching the inter-squad games is teams using their when they have their bullpen pitchers throwing, starting with the runner on second base. My question for you, John, is: are teams going to bunt in extras?
They should. I don't even see why that's a question. Again, sabermetric people will argue that bunting means nothing, but from an intangible standpoint, from an in-game standpoint, if you have one out and a runner at second base, why not at least try it? Experiment with this situation. No one has faced this before in Major League Baseball. And I guarantee you, there are going to be teams who are going to try and lay one down. What if you have your 8-9-1 hitters due up or your 9-1-2 hitters due up? The 9 hitter is not going to be your best guy. Sacrifice him, get to your 1-2, get to the top of your lineup, and try and drive that run in from third base. I don't care if the numbers say bunting isn't good. I don't care if all of a sudden you have 2 outs and a runner at third. In my opinion, why not bunt and move them over with 2 outs, then strike out and have a runner at second with 2 outs? That's the way I see it. So there should be more teams that should be bunting, or at least should consider it coming up with these new rules. What do you think?
Well, it depends on, I think, who's up. I think that if you have Aaron Judge, you have Mike Trout up, are you really going to bunt with them? I think that the answer is no. Now, those are obviously the top 1% of players. So for the most part, I think you will be bunting. One thing I'm noticing, and this is a benefit to teams with fast guys, which I think every team's going to have one of those on their bench, is whenever there's a failed bunt, the next batter, the runner on second base, steals right away. And I've seen it every day when the Yankees have played their inter-squad games. I saw it when the Cubs played a few times. And the runner steals third and is safe easily because you've got the fastest guys there. And the bullpen arms often aren't used to pitching super fast. They pitch out of the stretch, but they're still not quick enough. And the runners are able to advance anyway. So in my opinion, I think that if you can get a runner that's going to be safe stealing the base 9 out of 10 times, you might as well not bunt. You might as well give the guy a chance to hit. And then if he makes a mistake, if he strikes out, if he pops up in the infield, you then send your runner to third base. So I think you don't actually have to bunt. Does it benefit you having that one run? Yeah, but I think that the metrics have shown that it's actually you score more by not bunting.
Yeah, I mean, see, the thing is, if you do have Judge or Trout up, yeah, you're not going to bunt. If you have a notorious power hitter up, don't bunt. Chances are maybe he'll hit a home run and it'll all be over anyway. But, if you have your 8 guy, I keep thinking, of course, there won't be the pitchers hitting anymore in the NL. So I guess that's out the door. But still, if you have someone near the bottom of the lineup who isn't as proven, and, we're going to see a lot of guys, I think, make major league debuts this year simply because of the situation. I don't know if these guys are going to be up there thinking right away, yeah, I got all the confidence in the world, I'm going to do it. Some guys are going to need to bunt because a lot of guys won't be able to come through in that kind of a clutch situation. That's the way I see it. Yes, the top 1%, top 5%, maybe even top 10% will do something. Move the runner over, get a base hit, keep things moving. But there are going to be a lot of guys who probably can't handle that pressure or simply aren't capable of getting it done. Not every player is an Aaron Judge. Not every player is a Mike Trout. A lot of guys are just average. And you have to think about that when you factor into these decisions as a manager and you decide what you want to do. So I think we will see bunting at least early, and maybe it'll subside as the season goes on. But I think right out of the gate, especially in some of these extra inning games, why not take that chance? Bunt, lay it down. If the guy's a speedster at home, or in the box, try and beat it out too. 2 birds, 1 stone, have runners on the corners with 1 out. So I think there are ways around it and there are ways to do it, but, I guess we'll see. And I guess the analytics people still will not agree with me, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that teams actually still will bunt at first, even though the analytics disagree with it. And I don't know why. I think it's possibly because the relievers aren't used to it. And so maybe the analytics shift for that, which is that when the reliever's already come into the game with no one on base and gives up the double, he's already in the game, as opposed to coming into the game with the runner already on base, you're not settled in. So maybe the analytics shift, but like you said, we'll see moving forward. The last question that I have for you is, the Astros, they were the ones that benefited most by COVID-19. Without playing games right away, tensions, they fell. Are teams going to throw at the Astros coming back, especially with the shortened season where every game, possibly every inning matters?
Nobody should forget what the Astros have done. I know there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and it seems like every day there's just new news on top of new news, and we forget what happened the day before. Nobody should forget about what the Astros have done. And I will not go against any team who decides to throw at them. Go get Bregman, go get Altuve, go get all of them. I will be standing on top of my couch applauding. They did a horrible thing. They ruined the game for me, completely ruined the game for me. And again, we all have short memories, so a lot of people are going to forget about this. Even I have to an extent, but once games start, I'm going to remember this. The Astros totally just bamboozled baseball for 3 years. They won a World Series that they shouldn't have won. And last year, they almost got away with it again, too. No. Everybody has to remember what they did. Do not forget about what they did. And I advise every pitcher to throw at every single hitter who's on that team from last year and years prior.
Yeah, maybe I'm not as extreme as you, but I would definitely agree that teams will hit the Astros and that the Astros got away with it. I remember during the spring training, Trevor Bauer, just to show what it was like for hitters to know what was coming, was giving signs to every hitter coming up what pitch he was going to throw. And he was getting hit around just to demonstrate how bad the Astros had cheated. And so I think teams are going to hit them. I think the most interesting question is not when or how often, but who gets hit first, which is what Vegas is talking about in terms of odds. And some of them are saying Bregman, some of them are saying Altuve. And I think it's got to be Alex Bregman. I mean, even though he wasn't the one that benefited the most in 2017, he has been more of a face of that team than Altuve has been. And maybe that's because he speaks better English, or maybe that's because he was more likable and he was more of an underdog than Altuve the past few years. But I think his apology was weak, and I think that he's going to pay the price first. The very first game, I think.
I agree. And here's why, too. He is just so arrogant. I mean, I can't even sit and watch a press conference with the guy. I turn off the TV. His apology, it wasn't even an apology. We don't even need to call it that. We'll just call it a statement. It wasn't an apology. He didn't feel sorry. And last year, I'm the idiot. I thought he was going to be the MVP. And even after the year ended and he didn't get it, I advocated right. I'm like, you know what? Alex Bregman is the guy. I thought he had a better year than anybody in the AL last year. And I was the idiot who advocated for him. Then I found out about this, and I was just utterly appalled. So the fact that he didn't make a true apology, the fact that he has been the face of this team and has risen significantly since he debuted, I would say probably Bregman, then Altuve. And Altuve because the home run last year will live in infamy. Altuve's story is so interesting, and it makes you want to love him. Then you hear about what he actually did, then everybody doesn't like him too. So the story behind Altuve's success in the MLB, I think, will also play a role. Probably Bregman won, Altuve too.
And let's not forget that part of the reason that people dislike Altuve so much now is the fact that he won the MVP in 2017 over Judge for one reason, and that was his batting average. And now you're going to tell me that his batting average is fake? Inflated. He cheated. People thought that at the time Judge possibly should have won it, and you look back at the metrics and you still think he should have won it, and now on top of this, Altuve wins it and he cheated? Yeah. I mean, he's got to be one of the most disliked people in baseball at this point, I think, outside of Houston.
I mean, I also advocated for Altuve, and to this day, I mean, I guess now we know he cheated, so it was the wrong decision to give him the award. But at the time, again, I'm an old school guy. I loved his batting average. And Judge struck out 200 times. There's never been an MVP who struck out 200 times. Now, you could say that, it's a new era and we should be applauding that. I never will. So I was fine with that. But if he did cheat, which he did, a lot of those stats are going to be inflated, including the 20-plus home runs. I mean, Altuve wasn't even a power hitter until 3 or 4 years ago as well. I remember him debuting. I remember his first All-Star game for the Astros back when the team was so bad that they just needed one representative, so they just chose Altuve, and that was the year he had 183 hits, hit about 280. He was just a good baseball player. Then all of a sudden, now he's a power hitter. Now he's an MVP. So you could tell something was up. So yeah, I'm all for it. Go after Bregman. Go after Altuve. Well, everybody, thank you for watching today's edition of Corner Booth Sports. My name's John Zaglou, again with Daniel Karp. This was another great video, great conversation. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button over there. And be a part of the conversation in the future. Daniel, always a great time, brother. Appreciate the time and appreciate the talk.
Yeah, it was a good time. I'm looking forward to talking about the NBA and the MLB restarts moving forward. So should be good to sit down and talk next week.
That's right. Make sure to tune in, everybody. Next week, we do this once a week, and it should be fun. But thank you for watching. We appreciate it.